Yes, this is real. Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about forehead e-tattoos. Yes, you heard that correctly. E-tattoos placed on the forehead so that employers can track the mental state of their high-stress employees. So this is something that came up in Wednesday's Q&A over on the Substack. So if you missed that on Wednesday and you want to see the replay, that replay is available over at brittgillette.substack.com. That came up in the Q&A from Joe Hawkins, a friend of ours over at Prophecy Recon. So I encourage you to go check out his Substack, prophecyrecon.substack.com. He's a great writer with a lot of biblical knowledge, not just about the Bible itself, but the end times specifically. So I encourage you to go check out his site at prophecyrecon.substack.com. I'll pin a link at the top of the comments so that's easy to find, and you can check out all of his great writing. So, what are we talking about here? Let's take a look at this from Fox News. It says researchers develop face e-tattoo to track mental workload in high-stress jobs. It says scientists say they have formulated a way to help people in stressful and demanding work environments track their brain waves and brain usage. So to help people do, I didn't know that this was a problem. I didn't know that a lot of people were walking around saying, I sure wish that I could track my brain waves and brain usage during stressful and demanding work times. No. It says an electronic tattoo device or e-tattoo on the person's face. And they see nothing wrong with this. They've clearly not read the Bible. This doesn't raise any alarm bells for anybody. It says in a study posted in the Science Journal Device, the team of researchers wrote that they found e-tattoos to be a more cost-effective and simpler way to track one's mental workload. I would think simply asking your employee, hey, are you stressed out? That would be very cost-effective relative to tattooing something onto their head, onto their forehead, and trying to read their brain waves. It says Dr. Nashu Liu, the senior author of the research from the University of Texas at Austin, wrote that mental workload is a critical factor in human in-the-loop systems, directly influencing cognitive performance and decision-making. Liu told Fox News Digital in an email that this device was motivated by high-demand, high-stake jobs such as pilots, air traffic controllers, doctors, and emergency dispatchers. Liu also said ER doctors and robot drone operators can also leverage this technology for training and performance enhancements. So again, we've talked about performance enhancement augmenting the human body through transhumanism. So this is where all of this is going. But of course, it has huge biblical implications as well. One of the goals of this study was to find a way to measure cognitive fatigue in high leverage and mentally straining careers. The e-tattoo is temporarily attached to the subject's forehead and is smaller than current devices in use today. According to the study, the device works by using electroencephalogram, EEG, and electrooculogram, EOG, to measure both brain waves and eye movements. While most EEG and EOG machines are bulky and expensive, the e-tattoo offers a compact and cost-effective solution. Liu wrote that in this study, quote, we propose a wireless forehead EEG and EOG sensor designed to be as thin and comfortable to the skin as a temporary tattoo sticker, which is referred to as a forehead e-tattoo. Liu also added that human mental workload is a crucial factor in the fields of human-machine interaction and ergonomics due to its direct impact on cognitive performance. So guys, this is this is just unbelievable to me. And we've got this from the Daily Dot. I mean, it's not really unbelievable because we know the times in which we live. But here we have this on the Daily Dot. It's the headline they came up with was, "Would you wear an e-tattoo on your face for your job?" So let's think about that for a moment and unpack this headline, because a lot of times the media, these messages that are put out, are used to condition us to certain things. So what have we had happen in the past several years? Well, there was a time when they said, well, we've got this experimental medical intervention that if you want to keep your job, you have to do that. And so the next step is going to be, well, we have this e-tattoo. It's just temporary, right? But this is a requirement of your job now. When you enter the airplane to fly it, or when you enter the operating room as a surgeon, you're going to have this e-tattoo on your forehead in order to do that. And then, of course, the temporary will turn into, just as we saw before, well, it's not just your job you need this for. You need this to enter the grocery store, go to the sporting event, participate in society in general. So they're conditioning us that this is normal. Somehow that this is normal, putting an e-tattoo on your forehead that reads your brainwaves. And they see no problem with this. It says, for people in high-stress professions, think surgeons, pilots, and other high-responsibility jobs, monitoring mental health is a necessity. This is because a brain that's overloaded has a harder time thinking clearly, and decision-making tends to take a hit too. Now, researchers at the University of Texas in Austin say they've figured out a highly accurate way to monitor mental workload through something called an e-tattoo. An e-tattoo is a thin, flexible device that sticks to your forehead and tracks stress in real time. So does the person. Simply, most people know when they're stressed out. We also have monitors you can wear, Fitbits and things like that can tell you if you're stressed out. We don't need to tattoo things onto our forehead that read our brain waves in order to figure that out. How does the e-tattoo work? The device itself is made of a lightweight, graphite-based material that gets attached to the forehead using conductive adhesive film. 4 small square EEG sensors pick up different brain regions' activity. Other electrodes placed around the eyes track movement and electrical signals. Another sensor sits behind the ear as a reference point. Together, this setup allows scientists to monitor cognitive load and emotional stress as they fluctuate. And of course, they want your employer to be able to do that as well, and eventually the government, in every situation, all the time. It says, what do people online think? Well, not everyone's convinced it's a good idea. Who would have thought, right? Who are these people that don't think this is a good idea? Maybe you're one of them. If you're one of them that think, bad idea, post your comments below. Or if you think it's a great idea, post your comments below, whatever you think. But it says, under a post on Reddit Science discussing the new research, some Redditors were skeptical, I would assume, and frustrated. So it says, quote, rather than spending all this money creating monitoring technology, why don't you give folks the resources to not end up this stressed out at work, one person wrote, or another added, guarantee that's not how this technology would be used if it's developed. We already know how to help people deal with stress. Let's give them time off and support. 2 things jobs don't want to do because of the cost. And then somebody else posted, well, it just sounds like another way for employers to exploit workers. Masked in this, oh, this will stop us from overworking them. I think the actual narrative will be, well, this is how much we can push X person, so every person can be pushed to Y amount before they break. And of course, nobody in here says a word about what should really be alarming them, which is this right here. So this is This is from the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verses 16 through 18. We know this as the mark of the beast. It says he required everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given a mark on the right hand or on the forehead. And no one could buy or sell anything without that mark, which was either the name of the beast or the number representing his name. Wisdom is needed here. Let the one with understanding solve the meaning of the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666, or 666. And guys, this is one of the most famous passages in the Bible. Even people that have never read the Bible know about 666 and the Antichrist and the mark of the beast. Yet, why are these articles not saying, hey, this sounds an awful lot like what we read about in the Bible, where it specifically says, you have this mark on your forehead. Guys, this is a sign of the times in which we live. I'm not saying that this tattoo that they're putting out is the mark of the beast itself. It's not, because we aren't in the tribulation. There has to be a beast in order to have a mark of the beast. The Antichrist is not in control of the earth right now, so this is not imminently going to roll out today or tomorrow. But think about throughout human history and throughout the time this was written. So this was written in around the year 70 to 90 is what's believed. So late first century, almost 2,000 years ago. For much of that time period, this was impossible outside of the supernatural. Now we live in a time when they can put tattoos on your forehead, read your brain waves, where we have companies like Tether that are purchasing brain-computer interface companies so they trade cryptocurrency. That's what they do. They want to implant chips into people's heads so that they could, buy and sell using their thoughts, whatever it may be. And we live in a time when every government around the world is pushing central bank digital currencies, digital IDs, tokenized assets. So we're on the precipice of seeing this mark of the beast system. For the first time in history, in human history, our generation is able to see this prophecy fulfilled outside of the supernatural. We see the technology right in front of us being developed right before our eyes, being implemented and pushed out right in front of our face, right in front of our eyes, right? In some cases, right above our eyes and on the forehead of the people they're talking about here, but they still don't get it. They say, well, this is a bad idea, or this is a great idea. But they don't say, hey, this sounds familiar. I've heard of this before. Where is it that I possibly heard about this? Guys, these technologies they're pushing, especially central bank digital currencies, this is indistinguishable in capability and function from the mark of the beast. Again, it's not the mark of the beast. We aren't in the tribulation. But we're seeing the foundation laid for that. We're seeing the infrastructure being put in place for that. What does that tell us? Well, we read this in Luke chapter 21, verse 28. It's Jesus speaking specifically about the time right before his coming to establish his kingdom, his millennial reign. And he says, so when all these things begin to happen, stand and look up, for your salvation is near. We also read this in Mark chapter 13, Matthew chapter 24, where he says, I'm right at the door. Guys, this means Jesus is right at the door. And if you are a born-again believer who is in tune with what's happening, you see what's happening, it should fill you with two real emotions. You should be thinking two things right now. One, you should be filled with absolute hope and optimism. You should be beaming with it, because all of this is telling us, Jesus himself is telling us in Luke 21:28, I'm coming back. I'm right at the door. That's what stories like this are telling us. But it should also fill you with a desire to share the good news of Jesus Christ with really an urgency to go out and share the hope you have in Jesus Christ with others. Now, if you're a Christian and you haven't been paying attention to these things, hopefully this wakes you up. Hopefully you're no longer asleep. You go, well, they're doing what? They want to do what? Maybe I ought to pay attention to what's happening. And if you're not a believer, you're one of the people we're talking about, some of the friends, neighbors, relatives, co-workers, of those of us that we need to be sharing the good news with, hopefully this will bring you to this will raise your attention. And you'll say, wait, what? They want to do what? And the Bible foretold this almost 2,000 years ago. Maybe I should be paying attention. Maybe the Bible is true. Maybe I better figure all of this out. So guys, this is what we would expect given the times we live in. We've looked at so many of the signs. We've seen these signs. They're building into a crescendo. You know, this has been going on for a number of years, but it gets more and more and more frequent. That's what Jesus said. He said these signs would be like birth pains leading up to the time it was coming. So they would increase with frequency and intensity. Here we go. We see yet another sign indicating the nearness of Jesus's return. So guys, let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Again, great idea. E-tattoo on your forehead. Bad idea. E-tattoo on your forehead. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Meantime, make sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And God willing, I will see you on Monday. Bye.